Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.
Bonjour mes amis, bienvenue à la Direct Video Connoisseur Podcast. Je suis Matt et comme toujours avec moi ici, voilà, Jamie. Jamie, bonjour, ça va?
Bonjour.
All right, I think that might be enough French. I started to lose it a little bit there, but I after listening to your Liking It podcast and the fact that we were doing a French movie this week, and you had Duncan McLeish speaking in French. I figure me being of French descent, I needed to step up to the plate here and do a little French to open the show.
Well, it was lovely.
Thank you.
And I actually understood you, which is that's exciting too because I didn't realize that.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't realize I would, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I understand him.
It wasn't bad.
So.
Yes, it's slow. I have slow, broken French. I'm not, I learned it in high school. I didn't learn it from my family, so that my dad doesn't speak French, but.
Well,
yeah,
and that's their fault.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, he was one of those deals where not to bore everybody with my family's history or whatever, but in New Hampshire where he lived in Dover, New Hampshire, there's a large French community, and they used to have back in the 50s one of those schools where they spoke. It was K through 8 where they spoke English in the morning, French in the afternoon, and then it went under. It didn't have the money. It went under when my dad was like, kindergarten, first grade, something like that. So he knows like some very basic words for things. But like his older sister, my aunt, it's like there's kind of a split in the generation where the older kids in his generation can speak it fluently, and then he's kind of left out. Yeah, exactly. So I'll say.
So you just decided you would carry on the tradition?
I was, it was one of those things where in high school we had a choice of French and Spanish because we had a very small high school, and it just kind of felt like a good way to, I felt like French would be the natural one for me, and it did. It kind of helped me get in touch with my heritage a little bit. The other half of my family is Irish, and so I guess in that sense it would be, New England Irish person is just getting drunk at bars and wanted to start fights with people, and so I had trouble finding a way to get in touch with that heritage. I had to discover James Joyce in order to get in touch with that side of my family. but I had the other one. So I'll say quickly before we get into the lesson pour ma femme, je ne faire, je t'aime, mon petit chou, je t'aime, and yes. So
sweet.
So how are you, Jamie? How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I am. Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing all right. It's getting close to Halloween, so I've been kind of busy, but not in a bad way at all. Just Halloween podcasting and stuff like that, which I love. I've been kicking it with some Halloween themes horror movie themes for Halloween on the playlist. So last night I did songs from vampire movies, which wasn't all scores. There were some scores, but there were a lot of songs that I used from vampire films. So that was fun. Although the show itself, I had some issues last night. I don't know what it was, but my playlist was trying to whip my ass, and it wouldn't play what I wanted it to play. And I mean, you know how Mixer works, and
Yes.
you just load up the playlist, and typically I can click on whatever I want to play next, and there it goes. Only it was what I discovered it was doing was I would click on a song, and it would play the one beneath it.
Mm.
So anytime I wanted to do anything, I had to do it to the one above what I actually wanted it to affect, and it was just a pain in my butt. So I had a time with that, but my listeners are fantastic and very supportive, so they stuck with me throughout all of that, and we had a good time in spite of that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I know I've had problems playing the DTV connoisseur theme, which again I want to thank John of After Movie Diner and Crosstalk for creating that for us. But I think there was one time where I just had to open the show like it wasn't playing, and I just kind of had to jump in and be like, okay, hello everybody, you know, and in English,
Yeah.
not French, but yes. Yeah, so you just never know with Mixler. It's that's part of the fun, I guess.
I mean, it's live,
Yeah.
so woo.
That's right.
You never know what's going to happen, and no one knows that better than my listeners, because I screw up all the time, and all kinds of crap happens on my show, but we just sort of laugh and roll right through it, and they seem to have a good time anyway, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I wanted to mention the the Liken It podcast because I did get a chance to listen to it over the weekend. I wanted to say before we discuss it quickly, I wanted to say that for people who download it, I ran into this problem that if you subscribe to Liken It, for some reason you can't download the podcasts, but if you subscribe to Horophilia, you can get the podcast there and listen to them on your device.
It's true. Also, there was another issue. Or Jason said that you can just not subscribe to it, but do a search for it and download it without subscribing to it.
It didn't work for me when I did that.
That did not work.
No.
Okay. He also said if you use an app other than the Apple app, that if you use a podcast app that's not the actual Apple app, that it should work. It's only the
Okay.
Apple app that is having the problem. This is a problem that has been plaguing us for a while. And I didn't even realize it was a problem because I don't listen to podcasts that way. I typically either stream them
Mhm.
from the site or download them directly from there. Like I never used iTunes. I mean, I do now, but just recently I started using iTunes. And then there's also, it wasn't on Stitcher. It didn't have its own feed on Stitcher. But as of today, it was submitted to Stitcher. So in the next couple of days, it will have its own feed on Stitcher. So if you listen to podcasts that way, it will be available that way. But thank you for bringing that up because that has been a pain. People keep asking me what to do about it. And I don't know. We've been trying to fight with Apple about it. But I'm glad you found a way to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, because when I looked up Liken It, it gave me both. It gave me Horophilia, and it gave me the Liken It. So first, of course, I subscribed to Liken It, and I was like, well, what's going on here? It wasn't coming up as an MP3 file or MP4, I guess. And so then I went to the Horophilia. I thought I would just try that and downloaded it from there, and it worked fine. So I was able to get it to work.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, and excellent podcast. I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
one person you had on there, Ryan Lewis, I know he was a big listener of our podcast, and I'd been meaning to do the whole follow him on Twitter, all of that stuff, because I was like, he's been interacting here and stuff, and so it was great to hear him on the podcast and be like, there's the guy that's been he's commented on a few of our pods and things like that.
Yeah. It's nice to put a face with a voice with a name.
Yeah, a voice with some
Whatever.
comments. Yes, exactly. And Duncan was great as well. I joke about him speaking French and me being a French person having to step up, but it was really, really excellent. And obviously, werewolf movies. I'm always a fan of them as well, so it was really, really fun to listen to.
Thank you very much. Have you seen Where?
I haven't yet. No, I need to see
Should.
that. Yes.
Well, if you couldn't tell from both Ryan and I
Yeah.
freaking out over it. I mean, I think I was just so excited that someone took werewolves seriously again, because it's a very difficult subgenre to do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very easy to just turn a really good movie, or what could be a really good movie, into crap. You know, and it's just sort of, you're teetering that line when you're making a werewolf film, more so than any other.
Yeah.
I think any other subgenre. It's just very difficult for some reason, and then it's easy for them to fall into the camp zone. And this time, I was so pleased that the filmmakers took it very seriously. There is not, they are not kidding at all. This is completely serious. And it was done really well. So I was just way excited about it. I still am. I'm just very, very happy with this film, and I encourage everyone to see it.
Now, that's a French film as well, like the film we're discussing tonight. Yeah, so I was listening to it, and I was just like, this sounds good. I mean, they both sounded great, but of course, Brotherhood of the Wolves, you were talking about Mark Dacascos, who is,
the martial arts guy.
Yes, he gets a lot of play on the direct-to-video connoisseur. We're all big fans of him. He's always been kind of known as that one of those guys who never quite got the run that he should have. But he has this. I'm not sure what his ancestry. He's from Hawaii, but he kind of plays every ethnicity.
Oh yeah. Well, like in Brotherhood, he was a Native American who could pose with the best of them. Well, he would stop and pose and sling his hair, and he was cracking me up. But I loved his action sequences. He's really fantastic.
Yeah, he is. He's a top notch. Crying Freeman. That's one we do need to do. I think it is on Netflix. I've been wanting to do that one, not only for the blog, but I just in general to check that one out. His best one is Drive. I have it on DVD. One of my listeners, actually, I think it might have been. I'm not sure who sent it to me, but it is amazing. His action sequences in that one are just killer. It also has Kadeem Hardison in it, but it's different from the Drive. If you look it up, you'll have trouble probably because of the Ryan Gosling Drive. But yeah, he can get after it in a fight sequence.
Get after it. That's nice. Yeah. I love it.
Yes.
Where I think is, I think it's technically an American film that was filmed in France.
Oh, okay.
Or it may be a American French film, but I know that there are some Americans involved.
So is it like this film though? Is it French language first, or is it a mix of English and French, or?
Trying to remember. I think it's French.
Okay.
It's French. It's difficult for me because that seems so weird. But I watch everything in native language.
Me too.
And I always watch films with subtitle, whether it's English or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Languages just sort of flow around in my head. I can't. That sounds bizarre, but I can't always remember because I'm reading subtitles, whether it's English or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I can't always remember what the language was behind it. But I always like to watch things in native language because I feel like that they emote things so much better. Dubbing never does it justice, ever. Mm-hmm. Ever. It's like, oh, look at that guy over there in the room. He's he's turning into a werewolf or something. Yeah. It's wrong. It's always wrong. So I never do dubbing if I can help it.
Yeah, it's interesting because talking about this movie, La Horde or the Horde, might as well call it the Horde. It sounds
Horde.
The Horde. But the first thing I noticed on the Netflix description of it, and Netflix is usually atrocious with their descriptions, and they also were a little bit bad on this description as well. But the first thing they wanted to tell us is that it's a French language film. They did not want people to be complaining about how this movie is in French. They wanted to, I think, cut out a good chunk of the reviewers saying, "Oh, this thing's in French. I don't want to read a movie. I come to watch a movie," and the French with their cheese-eating surrender monkey thing, whatever, I think they wanted to just get that out of the way, just nip that in the bud. Netflix has been around, like you said, mid-2000s, early 2000s. Let's just get that out of the way. It's a French language film. If you don't like that, don't watch it. You know what I mean? Get him out of there. Because I noticed they said it involved crooked cops, and it turns out they're not really crooked cops in this movie. They're how do you want to say, they're cops on a revenge mission, but not crooked. Oh, do we hear a beep going off there? The microwave just went off a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're just trying to get a little revenge for something that has happened to one of their colleagues. It's not, they're not dealing drugs or running hookers or anything like that. They're just they're like, look, you killed one of our people. We're tit for tat.
Tit for
And I think that it's a fraternal thing. It's always that way with the police and any other kind of, if it were military or anything like that, it's a very fraternal thing. And you take one of them out, you can expect retribution. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting.
People are bad.
Yeah, you bring that up. It's a really great point because right now, I live in Philadelphia. We live in Philadelphia here, and there's a big story. I think it's kind of made national news, but this guy, I don't know what his deal is, what his beef was with the police department, the state police of Pennsylvania, but he shot at one of the barracks, killing one cop and injuring another, and now he's hiding in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. He's been out there for about 6 weeks now. But, it is, the manhunt for him has been massive. Like, it's just, they want this guy. And they are ready to take him in, as quickly as they can. And like you said, it's that kind of idea. And I think this movie...
You better hope he doesn't run into, like, Robert De Niro and John Travolta out there.
I know.
Killing season.
It is. It's killing season. It's getting around that time, And so, yeah, I know we kind of jumped into the movie all of a sudden just because we were talking about the Netflix thing. But, it was one of the things I liked about... One of the things about this movie that... the crooked cop angle, when Netflix calls it a crooked cop thing, and we watch the movie and it's not crooked cops, the fact that they're not crooked cops makes that the beginning of the film work a little better because they don't really know what they're doing while they're going on this raid where they go to the drug dealer's house to raid it, the big building. They're just kind of there, and like the movie, for a zombie flick, this one it's interesting because on the way it's on some way it's a slow burner, but it's like once the zombies are there, they're there quick, and there's no real explanation like what's going on here situation. They know there's zombies, they need to get rid of them.
It just sort of this is the fastest moving zombie plague ever. Let me just tell you, because when they were on their way to this building, we just saw them at a funeral.
Yeah.
The funeral of their colleague, and then they're all banding together. They're going to go and clean out this joint. Nothing's happening outside. Everything's normal. Give them like 15 minutes in the building and shit's going to hell. I mean, suddenly you've got explosions and fire all over France, and like you just look and the city is burning. When they look, I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, that was.
And then there are like 10,000 zombies running at them. Like, where the hell did you guys come from? Yeah. Really? I mean, how fast can this thing go? But I mean, we saw it works pretty quickly. But damn, to go from like 0 to apocalypse in T-minus 15 minutes. Crazy. Yeah,
well, I wanted to ask you about that because that, for me, is, as far as this movie goes, as far as it being a good film or a bad film, I think a large part of it is how you feel about that aspect of it, that we go from this kind of slow burner, what's going to happen when our cops are captured by these drug dealers in this abandoned building where they're not going to get any help. We already know these people are sadistic. They've already tortured and killed one. We don't see this, but we just see the body being found. But they've already tortured and killed a cop before. They have this guy that they're torturing in the other room. So we have this, and then suddenly we are into a zombie film, and we are there fast. We are, like you said, it is just there, and there aren't even really any explanations. It's like, our main character, I guess you could say, or the guy with the mustache, says something to the effect of like, "Ils viennent," they're coming, and that's it. They're there. What did you think about that? Would you have liked to have seen some more of like what's going on here? I don't or are you happy that they were just like, hey, it's zombies, let's get out of the building?
Well, I don't require knowing what's going on. It just seems a little bit too fast for me to get a hold on things, or for me to think, well, wait a minute, how did this happen so quickly? All of these people just a few minutes ago were roaming about the streets like everyday people. That's what they were doing. They were out there doing their everyday things before they came to kill these folks. And none of this was happening. Plus, these are all police officers. So if anything had been going on, they would have known about it. one of them would have heard something about it on the way there. Um, so it just seems a little far fetched that it took that it just all happened as quickly as it did. But at the same time, I don't need to know the why behind it. But my favorite part of any kind of apocalyptic event is watching it go down, is watching the. I mean, I prefer apocalyptic to post-apocalyptic. What I'm saying? Like, I like to see the downfall. I like to see the rise of whatever it is, whether it be a plague or zombies or if it's a nuclear disaster, whatever it is. I like to see the actual happening. So we basically got plopped down right in the middle of something that was apparently already going on, just no one knew about it.
Yeah, well, it's almost as if, not to get like all French cinema or French art on it, but it's almost like a surrealism or surrealist film where it's like almost like in a dream. You're in a dream and you're involved in one scenario, and suddenly you just go into the next scenario without any explanation for why we're going from one scenario to the other. It's almost like they just decided, like, boop, you're in a zombie film now.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, by the way, here are some zombies.
exactly. Like, oh, this is, and so for me, I was like back and forth on it. I was, there was a part of me that was just kind of like, well, wait a second here. Do we need the city is blowing up? I like the imagery, but man, did it need to be that fast? And you bring up a really great point about liking to see the apocalypse happen because my favorite zombie film is Dawn of the Dead, and I love that. I love that, Philadelphia is breaking down, which I haven't seen the film since I moved here to Philadelphia. I should watch it. But, you had that great set of the mall, which I think is the all-time best zombie film set. But this one was great, too. I love the abandoned building. But, you could see, people were still trying to do things. They're still trying to use the news. They're still, and
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Is in the beginning of that film, even before we get to the mall and Dawn. My favorite part of the film is watching, them still fighting with trying to uphold some semblance of composure. Trying to keep things together, trying to go about what should be their daily lives when they know full well that everything is falling apart around them. And that's my favorite part, is just watching them attempting to keep it together and then it just falling apart in spite of everything that they're doing. And this, we don't, it's just, it starts out as basically like an action movie.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's an action movie with zombies.
Yes.
And just out of nowhere. It was like, oh, look at there. If you'll recall when we were talking about this, about adding it, I said, I hadn't seen it since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been wanting to give it another shot because the first time I watched it, I wasn't crazy about it. And I was like, well, it's been 5 years. Let me give it another chance. And maybe I will have changed my mind. So I watched it. And in the beginning, I was like, wow, I like this way more than I remembered liking
Yeah.
it. Like, I am into this. I was into the part even before the zombies hit. I was into just the cop stuff. And then when the zombies started coming, I was still into that. I was like, all right, I'm into this. I mean, this is their... But then it was just... By the time we got to the end, I felt like nothing was accomplished. I don't know. It felt like we got plopped down in the middle, and we're still in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like there was any resolution to anything. I mean, it just sort of... We got a snippet, like an inside snippet of a bigger picture. As if there were more movie to the beginning and more movie to the end, and what we got was the middle part. That's what I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like, I don't, get all French cinema or whatever, like, but it
Brian says it's the raid with zombies, and that's his favorite comparison.
Yeah.
But I mean,
well, it felt like you think, because one of the things with French cinema, when you hear the word French film, the zombie film is not usually the first thing to come to mind. You think of, like, French New Wave, people like Jean-Luc Godard and, Truffaut or whoever, or you think of maybe even before that, Dali was surrealist or whatever,
I actually think these days, I think of the French extremes,
Mm-hmm.
Like Inside, Martyrs, Frontiers. That's where I go now, because that's where I have been most recently. Is I mean, horror had a big wave of French extreme films that were really fantastic. I mean, they bring the gore.
Yeah.
You know, they bring the excitement. So not zombies though. Then this was I believe the only French zombie film I've ever seen.
Yeah, and this, there's something about this one where it felt like the way that the zombies were in the film. That yeah, see, I am not as familiar. I should probably get the modern French films that I've seen are directed by people like Claire Denis, and I probably should see more of their horror films. I see like Luc Besson's French, his films that came out in the 90s. But like this one, just the way the zombies were included, it was as if like you said, we were plopped down, or as if like it was just like a dream, where you move from one thing to another in a dream that makes no sense, whereas like you're in the dream and you're in one room with one group of people, and then you're in another room with another group of people, and there's nothing odd about that at all in the dream. It seems to all make sense that these people are all here, and it's almost as if this film was like that it was just, it went from action film with cops and drug dealers in this really great space. The space was fantastic. And suddenly there are zombies there, and they are there in a heartbeat, and maybe the thing to do would have been just to show like one news clip of zombies at the gates that are breaking down, or something that maybe. But these people, they went from 0 to 60 as far as not knowing that this was happening, that this was going to be a possibility, to suddenly like, hey, we've got zombies everywhere, and we got to try to get out of this abandoned building, and we're going to take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like someone here watched From Dusk Till Dawn and said, oh, look what he did there.
Yeah.
There was a complete tonal shift midway through that film, where you start out with it's like a road movie with two brothers on the run from the law wreaking havoc, and then suddenly it's vampires in your face out of nowhere. And I feel like someone here watched From Dusk Till Dawn and said, hey, why don't we do that with zombies? Because that's kind of what it felt like to me. You start off with, although it didn't quite take as long. I mean, we weren't with the cop element as long as that before the zombies started. But it just, I don't know. There are things about it that just make me uneasy. Like, I can't sit. And it gets really high praise. I mean, and it got a really high score on Netflix. And for years, I mean, it's been on a lot of favorites. People seem to really love this film. I just can't. I don't know what is. There are things about it that I do like. I do like the action.
Yeah.
I think the action is engaging. I do like the amount of gore that we get. There's a lot of blood though that makes no sense whatsoever, all over this building. And nobody lives in this building. And this is something Brian pointed out. We were watching it. Nobody lives in this building. There's like the bad guys, and then a couple of families, and the super.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, this building is it's condemned, and there's no one else living here. So who belongs to all this blood that is smeared all over the walls, on every single floor, going down the banisters? When you hit the spiral staircase, it's just blood, 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 blood. Like, where did that all come from? There aren't that many people here. But so I felt like some of the set pieces were just bloodied up just to kind of give it more of an edge. But then that kind of irritated me, because it's like it doesn't need it, I know there are a lot of like nitpicky things that I have about this movie, I guess.
No, like, touches like that are, like French New Wave kind of thing, where it's like, someone like a Godard, Jean-Luc Godard, who is, either people love him or they think he's a pretentious asshole. But either way, if he wanted to do a send-up of the zombie film, he would cover his walls in blood, because he'd be like, oh, there should be blood everywhere. There should be blood, on the walls. You want to make it bloody, as a way to kind of like an ironic or kind of tongue-in-cheek thing.
Why, whenever we do French people, do we always have them talking?
Yes.
They always have like these really low gravel voices.
I know.
French people are probably like, we don't sound like
no,
that, do
we? I teach French students, and they don't sound like that, And so I shouldn't do it.
I know, I love it, and then everyone does it. Mm-hmm. I think it's hilarious. I do it. It's funny.
Exactly. Yes, it's just how we. But that's a point that I want to bring up about this film. Well, I had 2 points. One of them was about the Dusk Till Dawn thing, but the one I want to talk about is that the reviews, because I wonder if the fact that it's French, if people kind of feel like, ooh, it's it's a little different, like, do you think if this was done in the United States, and I'm not trying to like say that everybody who gave this a good review is only giving it a good review because they like the idea that it's French, but do you think maybe that gives it a bump? Because I kind of find myself sometimes like, if it's a foreign film, whatever the genre, kind of being like, ooh, I like it. I don't know. I give it a little more weight sometimes when I probably shouldn't. But do you think that might attribute?
Well, and you have a lot of people out there, and this happens often with horror fans who feel like sometimes they need to like a movie just because they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Like they feel like I should probably like this movie, and whether they do or not, it doesn't always play into it. Sometimes it's just like, well, this has been getting some good buzz. I should like it, and I don't know. I think people feel the need. Maybe sometimes it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes things go over their head, and they feel like if it goes over their head, then they probably should like it because they're missing something, and it's probably good. I personally feel like if a film goes over my head, then to hell with it. I mean, I put every effort into trying to get what the filmmaker is saying whenever I watch anything. But sometimes there are some filmmakers who just purposely attempt to just shoot outside just to make you go out there for no reason whatsoever. And those filmmakers, I poo-poo them. Because I'm like, stop being so pretentious. Just, tell a story. And then you have people who sometimes feel like, well, if they don't get it, then it must be something wrong with them. When in fact, it's probably not something wrong with them. There's probably something wrong with the filmmaker. But anyway, so I mean, it's people. Well, I guess what I'm saying is people end up rating films a lot of times for all kinds of different reasons, and it doesn't always necessarily have to mean that they like it. Although I know a lot of people that did really enjoy this film for the action, and like I said, the action is one of the good things about it. It's just, to me, there's a lot of other stuff going on that just sort of took away from it. Like, I just was not satisfied with the end of this film.
The ending was interesting too. I think as far as this movie, as far as like getting it or being over your head, I almost feel like what it is what are you willing to accept, or what are you willing to I don't know. I think it's a taste issue. Like, are you cool with the fact that we go from 0 to 60 with zombies, or do you kind of feel like you need a better build-up? I think that's really, for me, the question. And whatever you decide that you think the filmmakers were doing it for, whether it was because they were trying to make it surreal in a sense, or they just wanted to do a send-up of American zombie film, or whatever the reason, or an homage to them. I feel like with this one, I think you get it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This film isn't very heady. There's not there's not a lot going on here to not get. My statement in this particular case would probably just refer to the fact that it's French,
yes.
and maybe people didn't feel like reading the subtitles so much, so they're just like, I'll go ahead and like it because it's French. I probably should. There's not a whole lot going on here. I guess that's another thing too, is I really enjoy zombie films when there's a lot of subtext. To me, those are my favorite zombie films, and I know that there's some political stuff here, there's other stuff, but it doesn't feel all that heady. It feels all knees and elbows.
Yeah, well, like I think with this film, I feel like the subtext, and like you said, knees and elbows. The subtext is supposed to be that we have two people on either side of the fence who are, in a sense, mortal enemies who have to work together, which is sort of the classic zombie theme, right? We have this a lot in zombie films, that people who shouldn't get together because it's the zombies again. The zombies don't care what side you're on. They're going to go for you, and so you need to work together. And I don't know. Is that subtext enough? And really, the end of the film is supposed to be all about that subtext. And again, I don't know if it's, like you said, is it a satisfying ending?
I think there are some aspects to it that are satisfying. I do actually like the fact that the fact that she ends up exacting her revenge in the very last moment. She's like, "This is what I came here to do. I'm gonna do it." You know, regardless of anything else that's going on. I kind of like that about it. At the same time, I'm thinking after everything that you've been through, be a little human, you know, because apparently humans are slim pickings right about now. We need some more of them. But so I'm a little bit torn with my reaction to that part of it, as to whether I think I don't know. What really bothers me the most about that ending, though, is the fact that she is now left alone. You hear the Horde coming, and then it ends, and like, well, now what? You know, she has nowhere to go, really, now. She's kind of out in the open. Not much ammunition, if any. Are we just to assume that she's going to get killed? Because that's what my vote lies, is that she's not making it out of that alive. In which case, if that is the actual case, then then this was all for naught. You know, every bit of this, including exacting your revenge at the end, was pointless.
Well,
because it doesn't matter.
Do you think in her case, because the person who is killed, that they're out there to get the revenge for is her lover, do you think maybe in her case she feels like this is her last act, that she doesn't want to go on without that lover, but she wants to get the revenge?
That is a valid point, and probably true, because her emotions were running high throughout this whole thing, in particular, for that reason, and I think that probably does have some to do with it. In which case, I just, you know, I don't know. Like, do I see her as noble? Do I see her as foolish? Do I see her as, you know, bitchy? I'm not,
no.
I'm not really sure, because that thought crossed my mind quite a few times throughout this film. There are, however, some sequences that I absolutely loved. One of them being where she was beating the shit out of that zombie in the kitchen. Holy crap! I mean, she just employed the entire kitchen to kick this zombie's ass, and then ended up dropping a refrigerator on her at the very end, and then spitting on her after she dropped the refrigerator, which I thought was great. I did really enjoy those sequences like that, when they just sort of the fight scenes were really good. However, what the hell's up with their learning curve on shooting these things in the head? How many times do you have to see them not die before you learn that you have to shoot them in the head? I thought their learning curve was really poor.
Yeah.
And it was irritating to me.
Yeah, you know, I could see it with certain characters just being so freaked out that they're just shooting at anything. But our main character, I wish I could remember his name now. That's horrible that I can't. But the main character, he's the lead drug dealer. At least I'm thinking he's the main character. It felt like he was the main character. And of course he bites it at the very end, but he seemed like he should be in control enough that he would be taking the zombies out by the head. You know, he would be taking care of business, and he had his moments where he was just shooting wildly too.
Yeah, in the beginning I can understand. You had 6 of them going Pulp Fiction style at this one zombie that had come out of the bathroom, the very first time that they'd seen anything like this. This one zombie comes out of the bathroom. 5 or 6 of them were standing there just unloading all their clips straight into this thing's chest, and it's not going down. So then they finally take it out execution style through the head, one shot. That should have been, no, that was when they actually used the shotgun and
blew his head off.
I think, yeah. That should have been your cue. Of course, I guess a shotgun taking a head off will kill anything, but really, then you should take a moment and reflect. Look how many bullets this thing took in the chest, and nothing happened. We had to take off the head. It just seems at some point that those thoughts would prevail. And then from there on out, I don't give a shit. I'd be shooting for the head, period. You know, it's just go for the head.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, especially when you're spraying bullets with these weapons that they have, because it's not like everybody's running around with a 9mm. I mean, they have all kinds of artillery throughout the film. And it's just, you see them just like mowing them across the middle, even toward the end of the film. And I'm like, what are you doing? God damn it. I get so mad. And of course, they don't have the benefit of seeing the dozens of zombie films that I've seen over the years, and I get that. But it just seems to me after a couple of them, you get the idea. You'd get the hang of it,
Hmm.
you know. And even if that ended up not being it, I would just say fuck it and go for the head anyway.
Well, that's like that scene where we kind of get that scene where the we kind of humanize the zombies and we show how bad humans can be. Where the female zombie,
Yes.
you know, the main character's younger brother shoots her in the leg, and then they're kind of like, you know, I don't want to say they're toying with her in a very bad way, a very savage way. And the older brother, the main character, you know, to kind of stop them all from doing that, he just shoots the zombie in the head and takes it out. So
Hmm.
if that tells you how you're supposed to, that should let you know how you deal with a zombie right there. That they knew it, you know, they understood it. Um, for me, it almost goes back to what you were saying about how the filmmaker was sort of, you know, maybe paying homage to Tarantino, or was a huge Tarantino fan, and was kind of maybe trying to make From Dusk Till Dawn as a zombie film in France. Because I almost sense that, like, that's, you know, part of it is to kind of just, like, do that over the top kind of stuff, you know, like really just go for it, you know?
Hmm. Well, and I made the Pulp Fiction reference earlier too. Um, and I think maybe so. I mean, like maybe there is like a big love for Tarantino and Rodriguez in
Hmm.
here, you know. Because that's the first thing I thought of when you've got that handful of people just standing there and loading the clips into this. I mean, because even the stance, I expected one of them to give this like the Samuel Jackson speech before they started shooting at the zombie. That's how much it reminded me of it. So I'm thinking that that probably is. If I could speak to this director, that's the one question I would ask: is how many times have you seen Pulp Fiction and From Dusk Till Dawn? I just want to know, because I think there's some influence going on there.
Yeah, you
I
know,
think what it lacks though is everything that a Tarantino like a Tarantino film has, which is, you know, fantastic storytelling, character development, and dialogue. You know, which we didn't really have here, no matter the language.
hmm yeah, yeah. I think I don't know, you know, because I think on some levels, you know, one of the films that popped into my head too was, you know, was uh was it Night of the Living Dead? I can't believe I'm having drawn a blank here, but the original Romero, you know, before Dawn of the Dead, where he had
Hmm.
his Night of the Living Dead, where they're in the house and the zombies are coming, and I almost feel like maybe that's what he was trying to do, was a version of that, only you got to get out instead of stay there. Um, but you know, the idea that the zombies are coming, the wave is coming, but you know, like you said, it was the way it happened. We didn't get a lot of story, and maybe the filmmakers were thinking like, you don't need the story, you need to just, we're just going to jump right into the action. It's just, you know, I guess it's that question of whether or not that works for you, whether you're okay with that or not, you know.
Yeah, and for some people it is. You know, for a lot of people seem to really enjoy this. For me, it's not even necessarily more story that I need. I just like a little bit more build up, just because that's my favorite part. You know, watching the world fall apart is a fun thing, and I want to enjoy it while I can. I don't want to just jump in mid sentence. And I just, like I said, I just don't. If we hadn't known for a fact that these people, just a few minutes before all of this, had been out and about, and that they were cops, so like I said, if anything, if anything major like this was going down in a big city, you'd think that the police officers would have heard about it on the way over, like on the police band or something. You know, it's just somebody would have heard something. Somebody would have gotten called into work. You know, it just, and just all of a sudden there would be like 10,000 of them outside, just coming at the building, and it just, where the hell they come from? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, for me, I guess for me, I liked it. I liked that quality that just kind of went from not zombie to zombie with no you know, just kind of just happened. But I'm not going to defend it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like it worked. I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know if I want to say it worked for me, but I liked it as a just a sense of like a cinematic thing. But I can't defend it, if that, you know, I can't sit here and tell you like you didn't get it, or I don't think, you know, it's this and that and this and that. I can't argue in favor of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I get that, and I like a lot of things that I can't defend. You know, and you don't have to. I guess you don't really not really required to defend anything. If you like it, you like it. You know.
Well, you know how people get
I know
defensive
how that is.
and they start to get maybe even aggressive and they start to like there's some movies where I don't necessarily say I get offensive or defensive or aggressive, but I might be like, yeah, oh no, wow, how could you not like this part or that part? Whereas this one, I can't get out there and be like, you didn't like this? Why? It had the, I can't do that at all here. I can kind of
Well,
just.
you're just wrong.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's none of that here. Like, for me, it's like, I got a kick out of the way they did it, but there's some part of me that felt the way you felt about it. And in that sense, it's like I see exactly where you're coming from.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
So do you recommend it?
I say I don't know if I recommend it. I here's what I say is you listen to the way we describe the film, because we described it pretty much exactly as it happens. And of course, if you listen to how we described it, you know how it ends now, so you might not be all that inclined to watch it.
There's a lot that leads up to that, and I don't think it's going to hurt anything, honestly.
No.
And then by the time you get to the end of the film, really, I think you will have forgotten we said that, because you just sort of. Because I mean, I've even seen it before, and I forgot exactly how it ended. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars on Netflix. So if that gives you any indication, this is not like the kind of film where it's like Dread was last week, where it's just like, you gotta see this. Hey, while it's on Netflix now, my feeling about it now is more like, well, it's on Netflix, so the only thing it's gonna cost you is time. Whereas, with Dread, I'm like, you gotta watch this while it's on Netflix. The fact that it's on Netflix is such a great bargain, So I guess it's rather tepid recommendation, but
I will say that I feel that this is miles better than a lot of zombie films, probably the majority of zombie films that are out there, because I don't know if people realize exactly how many zombie films there are. There are a lot, and they're not good for the most part. You've got the handful that everyone knows that are really good, but for the most part, they're not good. And this is definitely better than the vast majority of, particularly, there's some real crap out there. I mean, just real bad. So this is way better than a lot of stuff. And I'd say if you're a zombie fan, like if you just like zombies on the whole, then I think you should watch it. If you are a fan of like French extreme cinema, if you love the way the French bring the gore, then, okay, watch this, because it's got some great gore. It does. It's got some great action sequences. There are issues that I have that are strictly story, and there are very few issues that I have that have to do with the direction. So as far as like the film itself as a film, I think it's it's good. It's a lot better than some other stuff out there. So I can, I'd say watch it. It didn't hurt me watching it twice, and I didn't hate it. It's just not. I just don't personally see why so many people tend to love it, but you might. So it's on Netflix. Give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm going to go there with that, because that was the thing that I had in my head. I completely forgot that was part of my recommendation, that, for zombie completists or, people that are out there that just love the zombie subgenre, I think that's a really good place to go. This is a good, it's definitely one to check out if you're, if you really love zombie films. Especially, like you said, if you go to Netflix Instant, the sheer volume of zombie films on there is astounding, and that you could do a lot worse than this one.
Oh, for sure. And if you're tepid about zombie films anyway, then you may not like it, but that's not necessarily the movie's fault. Maybe you just don't like zombies, or maybe you're just sick of them. So then don't watch it. But if you're crazy about zombies, then give it a shot, because there are things here that are definitely worth checking out. And I like some of the performances too. I think some of the performances are really good. Mm-hmm. I love the I can't remember his name, but the lead bad guy. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed him and his performance. I actually really liked his character. And then the Stone Cold bitch, she was it was fun to watch her whoop ass. And then you've got that crazy old soldier guy.
Yes.
Who was just hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely has its moments.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, yeah, if you if you're sick of zombie films, it's one thing that's interesting. I wanted to discuss too about the zombie film is that we've seen this rise in the zombie film. Obviously we've seen a rise in the vampire film as well. I guess with Twilight or whatever, and it's sort of a different thing that's happened with these two. And then of course the werewolf genre is kind of lagging behind. Yeah, I think we'd like to see that one come further. But the thing about all three of them is that the main scary part, I guess, with vampires, I guess with all three of them, is that they can turn you into them. But the zombie is the scariest one because there's nothing romantic about the zombie. There's no way to really spin the zombie in a way that is sexy or could be in any way cool. It's not fun to be a zombie. You might be like, if you're a werewolf, you could get out there and really kick some ass, or if you're a vampire, you get to live all your life and you get to hang out at raves at midnight, and stuff like that. The zombie,
you get to hang out at raves. I think you're confusing them with like goth kids or party kids.
I know, but
same thing.
Yeah, like zombies don't have raves. They limp. They're disgusting. If you get turned into a zombie, there's nothing. Bella is not asking. What's Edward? Is that his name in the movie?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's not asking him to turn her into a zombie, and she does not think he's a hottie because he's a zombie. Though the whole thing with vampires having diamonds on their skin or something is, that was a new one from. But you know what this movie, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing redeeming about being a zombie. There's no good. Once you were a zombie, that means you were dead, and then undead, but not in a sexy way, not in a romantic way, not in a powerful way. You don't even know it. You're completely mindless, and you, as you used to be, don't really exist anymore, except for in the most tangential way, as like Romero, with Bub and his other zombie, even on up to like Big Daddy and Land of the Dead, where they sort of retain a little bit of who they were, but really you as you used to be does not exist anymore. So there's no good thing. There's nothing hot about it.
Yeah, and the other thing about zombies, and maybe this is part of the reason why we have so many zombie flicks, is that there's almost not a supernatural element with zombies, right? With Dracula, with vampires, and with werewolves, there's something supernatural about the metamorphosis. Whereas zombies, you can, most zombie films, it has to do with like the government, doing something that, whether it's a virus or it's a nuclear radiation or something like that. And I think that's another part of it that especially lends itself really well to the apocalypse aspect of it. That, it's like, we don't know, like all of these chemicals that, obviously we don't really think zombies are going to probably happen, but there's that element too that it's like.
Well, yes, they are.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we think that.
We when I was out in Colorado, I think it was, there was a guy that had this huge like weapons store, and he advertised, buy your weapons for the zombie apocalypse.
And I'm terrified of zombies. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I am terrified. And for every time I move into a new place, the first thing I do is set up a plan of action, like what I would do in case of zombie attack. And that includes what piece of furniture I use to bar what door and what window. Where is the strongest place for me to hold out if they ever breached the doors? Which room should I escape to?
Mm-hmm.
How do I gather all the kids and stick them there? I mean, it's almost like a fire plan, except instead of trying to get out of the building, I'm trying to keep them out of the building. Mm-hmm. That sounds really sick and stupid, but it's true.
Yeah.
And this has been way before, Walking Dead and the big zombie boom. This has been since I was 10 years old and saw Day of the Dead. That I've always had these contingency plans. And there's something about them that just has always terrified me.
Yeah. And I think too, what people love about making the zombie flick, and this film that we just watched, the Horde, I think we should probably set aside from this because it was different in a lot of ways. But what people like about the zombie flick is you can really shrink things down very quickly. You can you can really, you think about, The Walking Dead. It's like, you know, they were spent a lot of time at the, in the second season especially, they were in that house for most of the film, and then they'd go make runs, and so you can kind of shrink the cast down, you shrink everything down, and you can really make it like a really base human story. And I think a lot of writers and directors really gravitate towards that because they can, one, they don't have to worry about a budget as much, as far as, it's easy just to get the whole cast and put them in makeup and send them out there as extras. But also, people like this idea because our society is just so big. It's, we have so much going on. We're so developed. They like the idea of bringing it down to its bare bones, and there's nothing that could wipe it all out like a zombie apocalypse.
Well, and that's true. Also, I think that the zombies in the best zombie films and zombie scenarios, like in, say, Walking Dead, which I absolutely love, zombies are merely a backdrop of what's going on. I mean, they're the cause of everything, of the reason that the world is the way it is. And there's something that is menacing, and you have to be careful. But the real drama occurs mainly within the characters themselves, within the human characters themselves. And the zombies are more of just a catalyst for everything else that's come since. And I think that's when you get the best stuff.
Yeah.
And as far as this film goes, I don't really feel we got very much of that. We did get some human drama, but it was so actiony that, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of overshadowed by every time we would get into a conversation or something going on with some of these characters, and like something big would happen, and then it would be, onslaught, and I don't know. I just felt like I didn't get the drama that I genuinely enjoy from zombie films, and maybe that's what they were trying to go away from. Maybe they were just attempting to make something where all they focused on was, or the main focus was, the action. Well, and that's fine. It's just, not what I prefer.
Yeah, and I think too, though. I think that, I don't know, because they set up what should have been a great scenario where you have cops and drug dealers and their mortal enemies. They hate each other. That should have been enough to really ratchet up the tension, but it just didn't it seem like a fait accompli so early on that they were all just going to team up and get out of the building?
Yeah, it didn't take very much for them to suddenly be on each other's sides. And it would have been one thing if this group of cops was coming to do strictly a raid.
Yeah.
Just a drug bust of some kind. And then they ended up in the middle of this thing, and then they ended up being on each other's side. That would have been fine. But the reason they were there was to take out these people as revenge for killing one of their cop friends. So I feel like they folded a little too easily, considering the whole reason they were there.
Yeah. The only explanation we could have with that is that the man who brokers the peace, what was his character name? Usman or something like that? The man with the large mustache, the kind of,
yes.
Yeah, the Fu Manchu. He brokers the peace, and you know that he was not really interested in doing the raid and like the revenge killing to begin with. So it's the only saving grace there. But I don't know. We've kind of jumped back into the film again, but I think that's where I'm with you on that, and I think it's it was where I was kind of on the fence, and though I kind of jumped over onto the, like, I'm okay with that side, it still left me a little bit like, ugh, I like it better when, like you said, when the zombies are the backdrop and we have a real human story that plays out, and then the zombie part of it is mixed in.
Yeah, I love the menace of the zombies. I want there to be zombie menace because there's the whole reason for it. Like when I'm watching Walking Dead, if we go too long without zombies, I start to get antsy.
Yeah.
Because it's a show about zombies.
Yeah.
And even though I love the human aspects of it and I love the human drama, I want there to be some freaking zombies, because in the end, because look, sometimes you see them get a little bit complacent, with where they are in the world, and then it's just sort of like it turns into Peyton Place. And I'm like, I don't want to watch a soap opera. So it's a delicate balance. it's a very delicate balance. You can't get too complacent and too comfortable and forget that there's a big giant menace out, scratching at your door. So I think that that's what they've, I think, been doing very well the last couple of seasons, is remembering that. I think second season was a little bit
It was, yeah.
But they've come back strong from that since then, and that's, I don't know why I'm talking about The Walking Dead, but
Well, the story. Yes.
yes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Still, again, there are some positive things about this. It's just not my favorite.
So
I'm not really crazy about fast zombies either.
yes, yeah.
As a rule, I just don't think they're as scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything fast is going to kill you.
Yeah.
To me, what's scary about a shambling zombie is the fact that a couple of them you can get away from.
Yeah.
But when they converge on you in a horde,
Yes.
or La Horde,
Dans la Horde,
then they just keep coming. And there's only so far that you can go, and eventually you're going to get cornered.
Yeah.
And they will take you. And also, they just kind of pop up from around corners and shit. To me, fast zombies just aren't as frightening.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's part of it, is that you have this sense that you can get away, but like you said, when there's so many of them, it's like an overwhelming wave of them.
And I guess that's another thing about this movie, is I don't find it scary at all. I don't think there was any. To me, it was just a big action film, with a lot of blood. But I don't think there was any part of it that was really scary.
Now, what's the story tonight? Are we still no music tonight? And then,
as far as I know, yeah.
All right.
I don't know what's going on. I don't think there's anything after us.
Yeah. So we crossed the hour threshold without even batting an eyelash. So we just,
Oh yeah, I don't think there is. I mean,
so we've what we've decided is this is check it out while it's on Netflix. Check it out if you're a zombie fan. You may like it, you may not like it. Kind of. Is that what we're kind of going?
Wow, that sounds really wishy-washy.
I know. It's.
I mean, because, I guess that's what you get when you come out with a film that really, if someone asked me about it, I'd say, it's okay.
Yeah. And
that's probably what I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but if I had friends over, would I make a point to show them this movie? No, I don't think so. But if you are looking for something to watch, and you've got an hour and a half to kill, and you're interested in a zombie film, you could do a lot worse than this one.
Yeah, there you go.
Does that sound good? All right. Well, let's. We've got a little time left here. Jamie, what have you got on tap here for us?
Well, I am pleased to announce that just earlier today, the third installment of our Friday the 13th retrospective over at Devour the Podcast has finally come out. So, anyone interested in listening to us talk about Friday the 13th Part 3, go to devourthepodcast.com and get that sucker. That's been a long time coming, so I'm glad it's finally here. Also, run over to legionpodcast.com and get the archives of the Insomniacs playlist, and then stay tuned next Tuesday at 11 p.m. or every Tuesday at 11 p.m. for the Insomniacs playlist right here at Mixler.com, on the Second Unit Broadcast Network, where I play live music of various themes, and right now I'm coasting through some Halloween stuff. And other than that, I'm going to be doing a guest spot on Grave Shift Radio this weekend, where we're talking about Phantasm 4 and I believe Squirm. Coming up, I'm going to be doing a guest spot on Not So Evil Episodes, where we all, for Halloween, are talking about, there are going to be 4 of us, and this is a sort of a revolving panel show, and we're going to be talking about the first horror movie that we ever saw, that we recall seeing. On the Skeleton Crew, we just had our personal top 10 all-time favorite horror films show drop, and that's basically where Alex and I, who were the regular co-hosts, and then we invited Dave on as a guest, we talk about our personal top 10 horror films, and that's of all time. which is kind of a daunting thing.
Right.
That's a hard list to tackle, but I'm pretty pleased with the way it ended up, I think. And
Now that's the Alex. Alex is going to be here next week with us.
that's right. Yeah, he's going to be here talking about House on Haunted Hill with us, and I'm very excited. I cannot wait.
I know it's going to be a great episode.
He's excited too, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. And now Beefy Beard is asking you about 2 drink minimum commentaries. He was at, so he's saying, because I think it seemed like this was a lighter week for you, Jamie, as far as podcasting. So Beefy Beard's like, hey, let's fill some of that extra time that you have there with
Well, I'm always happy to do a guest spot when I can, or pop on anywhere where I can. I love talking to my friends. And Gary, who is Beefy Beard, is a very good friend of mine, and he does a shit ton of shows. So I always enjoy talking to him, but I'll be happy to sometime.
Yeah.
Don't let it fool you, because I've got Skeleton Crew tomorrow. We're recording our 100th episode. This weekend I've got 2 shows. I'm busy. I'm always busy, but that's pretty much the stuff that people should check out right now. Anyway.
All right.
What about you? What do you have on the review?
I am late on the Killing Season review. I kind of didn't quite make that one happen when I wanted to. Hopefully by the end of this week I will have that one up, though. I got to get the images. We'll see tomorrow morning how that happens. But I fell behind on that. But I would love to get that one done and in the can. And then, like we were talking about, next week is our big Halloween episode. So we're going to have Alex. Now, Alex is from Evil Episodes Skeleton Crew.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I had that one written down. And so the 3 of us, we're going to look into. I still haven't asked Johnny about doing a longer podcast for that one, but it's our Halloween episode, and so I'm excited. We're doing the original House on Haunted Hill, not the we'll probably talk about the newer one. But if you're thinking, when you hear House on Haunted Hill, you're thinking, oh, I hated that movie. We're doing the original one. We're doing the Vincent Price one. So, don't think you hated that movie. Give us a break.
Yeah, who would talk about that on purpose?
No. I know, exactly. So that's what we've got on tap. But yeah, I'm hoping, blog-wise, to kind of make it happen here soon. But we'll see. It happens sometimes where you just don't get after it like you should.
Oh yeah, not like DeCascos. Sometimes you just don't get after it.
He gets after it. I need more DeCascos. I need to be more inspired by Mr. DeCascos. Exactly. Yes, that guy gets after it. Yes, if I could have a little more Mark DeCascos in me, I would. I'd have like 5 blog posts out. So, yes, exactly.
I love it. That's one of my favorite descriptions. Yeah.
He gets after it. That's right. Well, I guess we are all set. We are finished with today's episode. So, thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week for our Halloween episode.
Stay scared.
That's right. Stay scared. Stay scared. That's instead of stay frosty. Stay scared. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great one. Thank you, Brian, for a great show. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye, everyone.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino this year.
I was only playing for fun, so winning this was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's #1 social casino experience. It's serious fun. With over 80 casino-style games to choose from, you too could win life-changing amounts of cash. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and give them a whirl. That's ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void or prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of a winner.